Welcome, everyone. Before we kickstart, for all the investors who are listening in to the session and the podcast, if any of your questions are unanswered after listening to this session, or you just want to have a chat about investing in Metaverse, feel free to reach out to Genping through his community in Quidroom. You can find Genping's community handle in the comments here. And from there, you can log in and then use his community for all those questions and to actually get any answers around Metaverse investing. Now, over to you, Genping. Great to have you on board as a user of Quidroom and for this meetup. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks, Praveen, for having me here. Maybe a quick self-intro first. So I'm Genping. I'm with Vertex Venture. Vertex actually itself is a fully subsidiary of the Temasek Holding, and Vertex Venture itself become a global platform over the last few years, hosts multiple funds. That I belong to the Vertex South Asia India team, but along us there are China, US, Israel funds focused on early stage. So and Southeast Asia. Some of famous investment, including Grab, which, as you may heard, the ride-hailing evolved into a multi-segment companies, and NIUM, which is a billion-dollar fintech infrastructure play. So I guess today's topic is Metaverse. I personally developed along these directions over the past few years. I guess many of those who are interested in this topic probably started from the science fiction Snow Crash, and I'm a kind of sci-fi fan of such stories. And over the years, I followed development of Second Life and Decentraland in crypto. In the early days, and Roblox when my kids started to play about 2 years ago. Then the last 18 months, we saw that the Meta and Facebook turned Meta is having a big story, and also other companies like Microsoft also jumping such thesis. So I think the Metaverse story itself as a word become like very popular, but even so, I don't see that there's no clear definition. But for me, as a parent of three, I'm exploring those as multi-generation thesis related to my kids. That's why I spent quite some time to observe. And also, I'm an early participant of a crypto ecosystem. Made my first purchase of Bitcoin since 2015. So I saw that it's an intersection between crypto and some of the tech play. So that's why I was spending quite some time. So happy to answer questions along the way. And I don't know how to do this. Maybe I can share like some of my view on the overall directions. Or
and let me give you a bit of direction on this. So the first question definitely we have around market is because there are two ways in which we can look into it. So we already had a conversation, for example, with Raul, who's active in looking into how hedge funds are approaching this market space, and managers there are doing what they're doing in this space, right? Now, since you're an expert in the private market space, especially on the venture side of things, it will be great to understand what is the future of investments in the Metaverse space, and how would you define that? Where do you see most of the opportunities coming up in the next 10 years? Sure.
Okay, I guess then maybe I need to share a bit overview on my thinking first, and then where I'm looking for opportunities and a private investor. So right now, I think there are the traditional tech plays like Microsoft is highlighting its thesis and digital twin. Meta is doing VR, like Epic and Roblox is doing like a gaming platform. Then on the crypto side, there's like a virtual land focused thesis like Decentraland, the gaming community like Axie. Then there's NFT IP focused like Bored Apes. I think all those directions will all play together in the next 10 years. then for me, I'm basically trying to narrow down my definition of metaverse as something like probably fulfill 4 characteristics, and one is like need to be like immersive, right? But not necessarily the VR immersive, but like 3D world immersive, like people feel that they are playing inside. Secondly, is it's a massively rich experience. Fortnite is nice, but it's still kind of like a standalone experience. Roblox is probably a good example. There are a million experiences on top. The others are just starting. Then thirdly is low friction, right? So as to serve as a future generation of internet experience, it needed to promise low friction to users. And last one is independent economy that is kind of independent from our physical world. This is powered by the decentralized infrastructure, which right now is mainly crypto, but I think it will cover many things in the future. So with this overview in mind, my interest is basically on one side, as parents of 3, I'm trying to explore how with all the metaverse stories we mentioned just now and all some other early stage metaverse platforms are being built, how it will change our next generation of education, social, entertainment, or maybe work. Right? For example, right now I'm following EdTech company based out of Singapore, playing on the metaverse thesis that basically they are developing content based on metaverse platform to enable kids to pick up skills in like collaboration, critical thinking, communications. So it's very well crafted gaming content that 20 kids are playing together. And from this process, people basically develop the kind of soft skill they never really developed before. On one side, for people who are familiar about Asian culture, generally parents care, like schools and families care about exam results. I feel like those critical thinking, some of the soft skills are traditionally very ignored, and there's no better way to do it. And but Metaverse and gaming platform as a very, very interesting tool, medium, and which make it very addictive, not necessarily addictive, but very interesting for kids to really get attached to it and follow through the process. So my kids are trying it, and I thought it's really, really interesting. And I can imagine that such type of thesis will play more, will become stronger in the next decades. That the kids are learning either knowledge or skill sets or critical thinking within the metaverse space, and which were going to be very different from their traditional way of looking at it. So similarly, that such type of story will be extended in social, in job, in entertainment space. That's one of the direction I'm trying to spend more time. These are early stage opportunities just surfacing out. Probably you'll see more in the next 10 years. The other direction, been sitting in Singapore, and I spend more time to think like how the emerging economy, especially Southeast Asia and India as a whole, will be able to get connected to the world economy and benefit from some of the latest trends. So those are basically like a new type of job opportunities, or make a living opportunities coming up from some of these different metaverse platforms. So let's say for white collar developers, traditionally you probably need to have a better education, like better trained as a game developer to be able to benefit from like to develop games or apps so that you can benefit from like Google App Store or iOS App Store, and there's still a lot of restrictions. Then if you look at the Roblox platform, actually a lot of the games, a lot of the hit games or apps, or even like Roblox experiences are developed by one or two developers in the beginning, and that they have very good tool set to train, to get developed, to self-train and build. And then after that, the publishing and payment, everything is very smooth on a global level. So I think in the next 5 years, you will continue to see that a lot of emerging country tech talent will be able to leverage such opportunity to come up strong compared to such type of opportunity traditional and more open to developed countries. Then for the blue collar worker, I think probably many of you heard the story of like play to earn, like how many Filipino benefited for Axie. So personally, I still see a lot of challenge with play to earn. Not necessarily Axie is a good story in many ways, but it did show some of the possibilities that a good business can be built on top of this, which also benefit the emerging countries as a way for them to make a living and provide labor source or some kind of hardworking that can connect the emerging country to developed countries. So as we see that this is a two direction I'm trying to explore on the direction on metaverse related thesis, basically like on next generation education and on next generation of working opportunities for emerging countries. Of course, the other affiliate opportunity like technology stack or affiliate business opportunities also within the scope.
Well, that's very interesting. And that brings me to the whole thing. So we are talking about the companies that would produce and would be client facing, right? So the EdTech company that would enable better learning for kids by harnessing the interesting aspects of a metaverse. So there's definitely a potential towards that in the future. But in the whole ecosystem, would you consider that the client facing platforms would be the winners or the ones who enable them to be there? And if they are, and then who would you say are those enablers in the metaverse ecosystem that would benefit from the whole opportunity of the space?
Yeah, I think the client facing the front end or the user side will certainly generally be the big winner. But for metaverse, our definition of metaverse is like massively rich experience and probably more interconnected with each other, which is a bit different from the current tech space. So I assume that actually it's not necessarily a winner take all type of scenario, right? So
it's a bit more democratic, yes.
Yeah. So there'll be multiple winners, but among the current players, I do feel that players like Roblox have a head start in this game, that they have like 50 million DAU. They have very strong tech stack that enable developers and the communities to build on top, and also manage a massively large number of real-time players online. Those tech stacks are not easy to build. So that was my biggest question for those players from the crypto economy, that decentralized or like Axie or others trying to develop such platform in the coming years. Then that lead to the second part, the infrastructure, right? That I think compared to traditional players like be it social or e-commerce, and metaverse infrastructure actually pose very different tech challenge. It's much more difficult than before. And if people are familiar with a story about like Fortnite or Roblox, that there's even as we know that even technology is so advanced, there's only a limited number of users can stay on the same server concurrently and in real time. So the technology bottleneck is still very strong. I think that there will be big technology players like for those who can solve the technology challenge. But technology always replace each other. But if you can really get user hooked into it, user stay for much longer time. I think be it the front end or back end, people are winning for different reasons. If you have the best technology and if you can maintain your long-term competitive advantage, you'll probably be more like NVIDIA, right? So then, after so many years, it's basically still very strong, like the tech motor in the GPU space. So it really depends.
Yeah, and then Genping, I mean, I love your love the articles that you write, the ones that you have published in Medium and otherwise as well, the ones that have been published in public media as well. And there were certain interesting things there. And the one was about your current stand where you feel that Web3 ventures are the riskiest of all to invest into. I would want a bit more view from your end on the future of investing when it comes to Web3 ventures. What are your takes around that?
Yeah. So, the reason I say it's riskiest is because as traditional tech investors, that when we analyze investment opportunity, generally we are more exposed to market risk and technology risk and market fit, like product market fit risk, right? I think Web3 presented a new challenge, which is financialized token risk. That especially it's not regulated. It's open. It's very open. It's to high volatility and manipulation. And I think traditionally, even professional investors are finding it very difficult to manage volatility and manipulation risk. Then, especially when such sector is also open to retail investor, which can be easily driven by mood, right, by FOMO feelings. Yeah, so the thing, look at the public market last year that when the retail investor was so active, and then when you look at just 12 months later, and a lot of the tech space is already down by 80%. So,
that's true.
Yeah, so that's about late stage, and that's why I say Web3 make early stage behave more like a public market and probably times 10 times, right? So this type of risk, unless investors know that what kind of risk they are dealing with, then they know what kind of risk they are willing to pay for, to play for. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. That's why I say it's probably the riskiest.
That opinion makes sense. But if we are going to be revisiting this, then what would change your mind?
Well, that's a tough one. That the market developing so fast, and I can't even catch up with what's happening on daily basis. So I'm going to I probably more see that for the kind of mood to come down, more like managing the risk from a general market sentiment perspective. So I personally will not invest public market for example 6 months or 12 months ago, because I see how crazy it is, right? But then there are other short-term traders are willing to do so. So I think it's also come to the style, the investment style the investor are having.
Thanks for that. And since we're dwelling on currency, just one more question, and then after that there is one question from an investor that I would bring up. But since we're on this topic, so you had dwelled into the future impact of currencies, right? I mean, we were talking about tokens, currencies, so the ones that have been created by Roblox for kids, Axie Infinity for gamers, and Gitcoin for developers and Ethereum for NFT holders. What's your take on future adoption of these currencies? One, and second, we all know the impact that cryptocurrencies especially had with changes in regulation that is happening right now. And for example, China completely banned, and then they released their own digital currency as well, the CBDC. So I spoke about this with the ex-managing director for China Investment Corporation as well, and pretty interesting takes around it. But I wanted to know your view on how this will impact the investments, especially on the private market in this sector.
Yeah. I think the currency and the valuation around currency is always an interesting topic. I won't pretend I have a clear answer about that, but I do try to frame this way that 20 years ago, for anyone traveling from Singapore to US or US to Singapore, the first thing they need to do is probably like exchange some local currencies. Right, so that kind of create the demand for people to keep some currencies, and 20 years later, when we travel across border these days, people just carry a credit card. When they spend locally, they just do real time exchange. So the friction basically limited certain demands for keeping the currency. Because I think they keep staking or keeping the currency, the velocity of the currency. That's one of the key pieces to support a lot of the token valuation. But I do feel that the friction will probably weaken this thesis. Then in the long run, that what matters is what people build on top, the highest level, basically user interfacing level side. That when you have experience, you just want to find a way to experience it. Do you really care? Do you need to keep Axie so that you can play Axie related game or Metaverse? That's a fundamental question I'm having, which relate to people cross border, right? Secondly, that many of us claim ourselves as a world citizen, right? So what do you mean by that? We stay in a single country and we cross do business in many other countries. And whatever currency we keep probably related to the home country we are staying, despite we are calling ourselves world citizen. But imagine in the future world that there are so many crypto nation on it. But if more people are becoming world citizen in crypto nation, then where will they be? Do they need to physically relate themselves to Ethereum or to some currency that beyond any crypto nation? So that's come to the part probably world reserve currency. There are many debates whether Bitcoin will become it or not. I'm not going there, but I just naturally seems people will have a tendency to become cross-blockchain, cross-Web3 projects and become a world citizen in the Web3 space, and the world citizen may naturally choose something to dominate on all the other things. And CBDC, I think as its current development, actually, I still find it quite difficult to comment because there are really no live projects. And based on the direction, it's still going to be quite difficult to predict, especially given that we already have so many stable coin, like USDC, USDT, right? So that one, I really can't really comment that much.
Okay, no issues. Now I'm just going to quickly go into one of the questions that Carol had asked in here, and what are the key consumer applications that you think Metaverse can transform in next 5 to 10 years? So Carol, if you're listening in, Genping already mentioned about EdTech being one of the top sectors that is going to be a winner in the next 5 to 10 years. So that is his personal take in terms of a sector. Genping, anything more you would like to add in terms of other consumer applications?
Yeah. So currently my favorite is still Roblox, right? I see my kids play Roblox as entertainment platform by asking them about are there like educational content on the platform, and they highlighted a few to me. And but I think my interest is along the education space, and I can see the potential is there, but currently probably not enough effort has been directed to there. But I do see a few startups has been doing pretty interesting thing there. So I feel that this like Roblox and the ecosystem itself demonstrate some of the potentials. And others, I think it's a bit, I haven't really seen that much others. I think Epic, the Fortnite developer, is teamed together with Lego to kind of build a separate platform, but until it's out and until the children are using it, then probably hard to see. Yeah.
Okay. And another question that is here is, with so many NFTs on the marketplaces, what are the factors to consider before investing in NFTs? Any views around that?
Yeah. So this is a very interesting question. With that, I have been thinking it. I find it quite difficult to answer. Maybe let me put this way: that in the tech startup space, there are consumer internet, there are fintech, there's SaaS, and each sector has very different characteristic. And as an investor, we need to really choose a direction to dive into it, to develop insights before making these decisions. And it all take a lot of time and thinking, right? The same thing for NFT. At least I can see there are probably like three directions, like in terms of NFT are very unique and different. Number one is arts, that people thought that the people art sold for 17 million. But I thought it makes sense, and it's also absurd because I'm not art collector, right? And that you need to really have the mindset to collecting art to be able to tell and put the NFT component, which is just a mechanism, away, right? So then the second one is probably like Bored Apes, like the profile tokens. And this type of is more like the traditional luxury products like LV, Hermes, the Rolex watch, right? So for each of those products, there's a unique stories behind it, and a community building it to enhance those stories. So unless you really dive into it, you may not necessarily know really what's going on. And it's very different from the art thing, right? In art, you're just looking for artistic stories and expressions. And here's another way of thinking. And third category is probably like the digital asset related by digital. What I mean, like, for example, game related to digital asset, like Axie, or a lot of the other like game assets that has unique utilities, and based on its scarcity, and the asset, the value will be very different. So unless you really dive into the context of the game and the potential of the game become a hit, then you probably will find it difficult to judge the value of the asset. But I guess the summary is that you really need to look at the different segment, dive into it to know it deep to make a decision. But it seems that there are can develop a strong thesis around some of those.
Absolutely. And so Michael is a person who had asked this question. So Michael, just to add one comment from my end, it might help for understanding that digital assets as such is every single type of digital assets shows different kind of characteristics. So it will always be better that you try to compare it with something that is a traditional equivalent to understand exactly what the value building can be in the future. So with NFTs, I would really compare it with real assets, like the traditional arts and all. And when it comes to the other type of investment opportunities, you can compare it with how equities perform, for example. So you had to be very careful. You cannot look into NFTs the same way in which you look into, let's say, investing into Bitcoin. It's completely different. The dynamics are different.
Yep.
Just one extra thought around it in case you're looking into it. If you have anything to add, then great. But otherwise, I'd like to go into the next question.
Yeah, sure. No, nothing else to add. You summarized really well.
Thanks. So the next one, so this is from my end before we get into the next investor question, because I really like your article around DAOs, and I'm very interested with your to understand about your take, because you believe that 2022 is going to be the year for DAOs, right? Now, there's obviously that hesitation, and I know that you have already eloquently put it in your article about that there is a potential, even though it is democratically run, but then there is still always that concern when it comes to even venture investing, that you are not investing into a defined leadership. You're going to be investing into a democratically run, loosely run organization. And with all the scandals that have come up during the past few years around DAOs, do you feel that it offers fertile grounds for venture investing in the next 10 to 15 years?
Yeah, so I guess first I need to clarify that I'm not sure whether 2022 will be the year for DAO. I think that's an industry sentiment, but I do feel that long run, this is going to be a strong trend. Which year it can break out is something I really have no strong view at this moment. And going forward, whether it can become a fertile ground for VC investor, is that the question?
Right, that's right. In the next 10 to 15 years, do you see opportunities coming up in investing into specific DAOs?
I think, as you point out, the DAO itself opens up opportunity, but opens up a new risk, right? Traditionally, as a VC investor, I was trying to analyze from a VC angle. That's why I say, okay, traditional VC, we have like a founder-focused approach, but now here there's no founder, and it's going to be very difficult. And I see the risk. But I think my perception changed all the time is that the DAO actually is a new type of organization with new type of risk, and they need the new type of venture investors to invest in it. So either VCs can change their way of investing to adapt, or a new class of investor will come up to fill the gap. So it's quite obvious when you see it, like, for example, a PE investor, private equity investor, late stage investor, when they come to early stage VC type investor, it will took them a while to adapt, but they can't just like move the PE mindset into VC and hope that it can somehow adapt their way of investing, right? I think the same thing is happening now for VC versus let's say crypto and DAO investment. And then how to adapt is basically, okay, can you develop some frame to look at the health of the community and the core developers, and identify the risk and the community participant, and trying to help to address the risk. Then secondly is that I'm not even sure the traditional VC portfolio of 10% hit rate will still apply here. For example, for 20 company portfolio and 2 home run or 1 home run give you the whole portfolio return. That model itself we might need to change here. Maybe it's become like a 50 with one hit give you like 1,000 times return, right? Type of risk dynamics. And this is especially true given that a lot of the DAO or crypto project are not giving you like a large ticket to buy in, right? So traditionally, VC is trying to fight for 10-20% stick and lease, but here I think most of the project will not give you like more than 5%, and probably usually it's like 1% to 2%. So because they are in favor of building a community rather than building a value and investor-driven cap table, right? The mentality from both sides will be very different. So I guess in short, the summary is that as investors, we just need to adapt and figure out how to effectively manage the risk and capture the upside. But either way, we need to make some change to benefit from, to make it happen and benefit from it.
And so it seems like you are actively watching this space and you do see the potential in here and in the coming years, but still a little bit more research needs to be done. The market is still nascent to see what can be achieved. So on that note, because this is going to be published mainly for investors, it will be good for us to just understand a little bit more on exactly how you currently collaborate with other investors as co-investors, let's say into the startups that are already in your portfolio, or maybe as investors into your fund, into your or for personal reasons as well. Do you collaborate with other investors just to get a flavor of exactly what can be, what investors in the community can expect in terms of collaboration from you if they approach you?
Sure. So the fund I'm with, Vertex Southeast Asia India, current fund is about $305 million. We focus on Series A stage investment. So generally we lead the investment. So that I guess on one side we look for early stage exposures. I think this is a very strong investor community. You see some early stage leads that looking for A-round investors. Happy to get leads from you and exchange ideas. Then among our portfolios, and we also help our portfolio pretty hands-on, help them to do fundraisings. And anyone of you are looking for B rounds onwards exposure, direct investment, always happy to keep in touch. And then in between that, if there are Series A stage investors here, I guess we're always happy to co-invest. Then the current fund is going to finish investment late this year or early next year. Currently, we are doing fund 5 raising and targeting late this year or early next year closing. And this fund will be $450 million. If any of you are interested to do fund investment, also happy to get in touch.
And I assume that the majority investor as of now is going to be Temasek itself, right?
Not really.
Okay.
So Temasek actually will only be about 30% of the whole fund, and we do have quite a few LPs from different regions, like big insurance companies, big corporate tech companies, family offices across the world. Yeah, we do have a very diversified LP base. So any of the fund investors who are looking for early stage fund with Southeast Asia, India exposure, then always happy to chit chat.
Absolutely. And just on that note, have you traditionally seen Temasek taking a position directly into some of the portfolio companies later in the future, or that has not been the case when it comes to co-investments?
So Temasek, and so as I mentioned, Vertex Holding is as a direct subsidiary of Temasek Holding. Yeah. We work quite closely with the Temasek team. And currently, Temasek already invested at least 2 of our portfolios in this region, and also more portfolios in other regional funds. So we do have a close relationship. But Temasek usually when the company come to that late stage, right? For us, a ticket size is about $2 million to $8 million US. And Temasek usually come in at 50, 100 million above.
Absolutely. I was just interested to know, and I'm sure a lot of other investors will also be interested to know about the potential around the portfolio companies when they grow as well. So that's why I was just interested to know more about this. Genping, thanks a lot for introducing your fund, as well as also talking more about your thoughts around the metaverse. And for all the listeners that will be listening to the podcast, if you do want to be a part of Genping's community and get more insights around metaverse investing, especially from a private investment angle, then feel free to ping him in his community in Quidroom. Again, the handle for his room is there on the comments down below. So reach out to him, throw in the questions, and in case there is another, if you want to do another Ask Me Anything session with Genping, then please directly ask the questions to him so that from there they can take it forward. And again, Genping is more than happy to answer any questions that any of you have as investors about co-investing with the portfolio companies that they currently have, as well as also in regards to being part of the GPs with Temasek and all into their fund that they are currently actively raising capital for. Anything else, Genping, you would want to add before we close the session?
Yeah, not really. Thank you, Pravin. Thank you for everyone for listening in. And look forward to continue the discussion with many of you.
Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye.